This is my comic script for an old webcomic project that I was working on back before 2010. How do you make a comic out of this? This was very tedious. First of all, I didn't have a clear overview of my story, and also the novel-like format made sure that I was in my character's head. You know, the thing that's very hard to visualize. I didn't write anything visually descriptive, so I had to make an entire translation step from a novel to a visual script, you know, because this was a comic. So how do you make a quick comic script that will also really help you create your thumbnails with more ease, and thus your comic pages, instead of having this big unwieldy novel-like format that you have to comb through to really understand how you're going to make all of this visual? And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. Welcome back to Pencils and Stories, where we talk about making your own comics. As a reminder, at the end of October, there is a email challenge coming up. It's a free email challenge called the Comic Starter Challenge. We're going to lay the foundation for your comic in 5 days through the email series. And then on day 6, there will be a live session where you can ask me any questions. And we're going to bring everything together and talk about drawing, designing, and creating your comic pages. Get your comics started as soon as possible. Join us in the Comic Starter Challenge. Go to pencilsandstories.com/Comic Starter Challenge. Click the link in the description below and join us at the end of October. So how do you write that easy comic script? And how do you prevent that big novel? The answer might seem obvious. Don't write it out as a novel. Duh. I'm going to share with you my method of outlining and then expanding on that outline to get your final script. The benefit of outlining is that it gives you a really good overview of your story, and you can easily rearrange scenes as you see fit. They kind of act like little note cards that you can switch around. So step 1 of the outline is to write a 1-line sentence for each event in your story. These are your scenes. Or you can view them as all the points of your plot that move the story forward. I use bullet points for this outline. And the great thing about bullet points is that you can easily rearrange scenes or check if your story flows naturally. The simpler that you keep your script at the start, the simpler it will be to construct a good, solid story. Keep writing your scenes and keep outlining until your story is solid. If you're unsure of how to structure a story, you can actually use a preconceived story structure method. You can use story beats from story structures like The Hero's Journey or the book Save the Cat, or any kind of structure that you like and that fits your way of storytelling. If you have your list of scenes, your outline, I would actually keep this list handy, put it away, but copy it so you can use it for the next step. And then step 2, go a level deeper on each point or each sentence and expand that sentence into a little paragraph. Since you're now making the story bigger, one of the big benefits of keeping the list with the 1 sentences is that it's easier to go in for each character as well and look at their development per scene. So you can keep the 2 separate, but what you could also do is have this one big table. You can do this in Notion, you can do this in Excel, or whatever program that you use, and then have your 1 sentences in 1 column, then add maybe a little character development for each character, and eventually even put your paragraphs there as well. So everything is together on the level of every single sentence of your outline. So voila, with each sentence expanded into a little paragraph, you now have a full story. So for each paragraph, you now have a little description of what happens in each scene. But how do you take all of these paragraphs, this story, and make pages out of them? The next step is where you actually finish your script. Step 3. When I start the thumbnailing stage, I go in at each story point with a little paragraph, then make another little bullet point list of everything that happens in the scene. And you can add dialogue here as well. This is very detailed compared to the small paragraph. I actually write out in detail what's going to happen. Then I roughly divide those bullet points into pages. And this is an estimate because I'm not sure if I will be able to fit everything on 1 page, but that is something that I do in the thumbnails and that I struggle with when I do the thumbnails. And you can go as detailed as you need with these bullet points. So add any visual information that you think that you're going to need for the thumbnails, like writing emotion words, for example, next to some of these, or the time of day, or the setting, and all of those things. So you can script the entire comic in this way before you even start drawing if you want to. Personally, I do not do that. I really like the script and thumbnail together in tandem. So that's why I have my single sentence outline and my little paragraph. So at least the story is solid. I have a beginning, a middle, an ending. I know everything that's going to happen. My story is solid structure-wise. I have character arcs and everything. But then I don't script that last detailed script. I don't do that before I start working on a scene. I actually do that before I start my thumbnails. And that is because I usually get new ideas as I'm thumbnailing that I can add to the script. Very often when it's been a while since I've worked on a certain scene, I want to tighten up the script a bit. I want to tighten up the dialogues. So I want to be as fresh with the script as possible when I start thumbnailing. Also, I'm at the most current point in my skill level when I start thumbnailing, so I actually know what my limitations are and how I can work around those. And lastly, I work in batches of pages. I usually work on one scene at a time, and when I start thumbnailing and then I start drawing the page, everything is still fresh in my mind from the last updated version of my script to the thumbnails. But if it works for you to do it in another way, like some people have maybe a shorter comic and they script the entire thing out and they script it out in detail so they can immediately dive into the thumbnails and then do a little bit of tweaking on their script before they start thumbnailing, that's all fine. Find a way that works for you and work from large overview to tiny details. So do the outline of the scenes first, just one sentence, that's this scene, and then a paragraph, and then go into detail. If all of this is helpful, you might actually like my checklist on making a comic from scratch in 20 minutes a day. It's all the steps of making a comic laid out, easy to follow. Go to pencilsandstories.com/extra to get that checklist. So you've created your outline, you have your sentence bullet points, you expanded it into paragraphs, and then you created your script out of that. How do you take that script and turn them into visual thumbnails? That is what this video about quick and effective thumbnails is all about. Go watch that video and go and make some comics.